Welcome to Concussion Talk podcast. Before my great chat with my guest, who is the smart and motivated CEO and founder of Vistendo, Isabel Gutierrez, I want to first thank my sponsor, HeadCheck Health. HeadCheck Health bridges gaps in concussion care through simple, powerful technology. Join organizations like the Canadian Football League, Track Factory Racing, the Canadian Junior Hockey League, Eastern Washington University, and Volleyball Canada, who rely on HeadCheck to improve communication and optimize care. Visit headcheckhealth.com for more. Please visit my website and my other advertisers. My website, concussiondoc.com, and please subscribe, rate, review wherever you get your podcast. You can follow me on social media at Concussion Talk. So it's Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and and if you're in St. John's area, please join us the Newfoundland and Labrador Brain Injury Association on June 3rd at Barron Park by collecting donations to pledge support for the, the association and for help raise brain injury awareness. So that's June 3rd at Barron Park. So please join us. Thank you. And now here's my interview with Isabel Gutierrez. Okay, welcome to Concussion Talk Podcast, episode 155. And I'm talking to Isabel Gutierrez. Make sure I pronounced that correctly, but I think I am. And I didn't ask her beforehand, even though we talked briefly beforehand. But Isabel Gutierrez is correct. And
Yeah,
good. Okay, and she had a very interesting story. But guess first off, tell us what she's the CEO of Vistendo, who is a concussion product and Brian diagnostic tool. So can you tell us more about Vistendo, the company that you founded?
yeah, sure. So Basunda is really focused on ending human suffering, and what we mean by that is physical, mental, and emotional suffering. Uh, we first started with concussions because personally, my sister suffered from one, and there's over 4 million youth athletes that get a concussion each year and really risk permanent brain damage due to delayed or
Yeah.
lack of diagnosis. So what we're doing here at Vicendo is a couple things, but the one focused on concussion is we've created a patent pending device that integrates current hospital approved concussion tests into a portable device for athletes to use. So it runs three objective tests. We have pupillometry, so we're checking your pupil size and your reaction to light, and ocular motor, how your eyes are moving in accordance to different lights, and then vestibular ocular reflex, which measures how eyes move when the head is moved. And so all of this together can has been around since at least the 1960s. And what we're doing is we're combining it all into a portable device so that you can use it on the field.
Wow, that sounds good. And you are, because that's very expensive. Because I've talked to someone who does it the virtual reality. Is it virtual reality? Is that part of it, or is that just part of your own like device? There is it.
Yeah, so it's very similar to what a virtual reality headset looks like.
Okay.
And then we use our own
Yeah. Patented.
types of electronics to do that.
Yeah. Cool. So I was just as I was saying to you beforehand that I read your story on LinkedIn, and your story is just remarkable. So can you tell us about, because you mentioned it, asked beforehand if you had any concussions. You said you did not do know, which means who knows what it means, but sorry, nothing major you've noticed. And but your sister has. Sorry, you looked over to say something. So
No, yeah, no, go ahead.
okay, your sister has had several or one big one, or like I forget the exact if it was several or just one issue is really affected by the symptoms. So can you tell us more about your sister and your very extensive, yet very short background?
Yeah, so I grew up playing soccer. Come from a family whose soccer was a huge part of our life. I played for over 10 years, headed the ball a lot
Yeah.
that I know of. I have no concussions, but Wouldn't be surprised if I do.
Exactly.
And my sister followed my same path. She played soccer for many years as well. When I was in college, I was at one of her games where, she turned around and got hit right on the back of the head,
Okay.
right where the neck meets the head. She
Wow.
went down, was down for about 30 seconds. She got back up and she kind of
Unconscious?
walked out. Uh, she doesn't remember.
No.
So we're pretty sure she fell unconscious, but she never stayed down for that long enough for people to really worry about it. So
Yeah.
she walked off, and that was pretty much it. Up until that point, we knew concussions happened. It was kind of
Yeah.
part of the game, but it was never a huge problem. It was never a huge thing. It was kind of, the equivalent of spraining your ankle. And, uh, you know, she went on with her life. I went on with my life for about a couple weeks. She complained about, her head hurting. She couldn't focus at school, and her symptoms just got worse and worse until a couple weeks later, we finally took her to the doctor, and that's when they told us that she had suffered from a pretty bad concussion.
Wow. So, and you were doing engineering at Cal Poly Pomona at the time?
Yeah, so at that time I was studying mechanical engineering at
Yeah.
Cal Poly Pomona. I wasn't really involved in that many sports, playing more intramural sports, and
Yeah.
I was also working as a certified first responder at our university gym,
Oh, yeah.
kind of seeing the other side of the injuries and getting to treat that. And that's when my sister suffered from her concussion. Um, I think up until that point, we never really took it seriously.
Yeah.
And after she got diagnosed, I think that's when uh, I started to really understand how serious a concussion could be, especially when it goes undiagnosed and untreated for that long.
Yeah, I mean, I never took brain injury concussion seriously until I had one, so it's unfortunately, and then mine was times back in '03, so it's a while ago now. But it just goes to show that a lot of times you just people just don't think about things that have happened to them or to their families, someone close to. But what do you then when you found out she had a concussion, I mean, you doing it during your second year or first year?
At that point, I was finishing my second year.
And you decided that you wanted to do more research in this or do more work on or want to work in this. Can you explain how that evolved?
Yeah, absolutely. So I at that point was finally under kind of my first intro to the medical world. Up until that point, I had never shown any interest in it. I was studying mechanical engineering. Those fields don't tend to overlap
Yeah,
that
yeah,
much. And I started to really realize at that point how difficult it is to express or even diagnose an injury that's all internal. It's very easy when you're bleeding out or when you have a broken bone, but when everything's internal and you're
yeah,
relying on the person to really let you know how serious it is, it's
yeah.
very difficult.
It's you.
And as an athlete, you're pretty much in the mindset of you're going to go until you literally can't walk,
Yeah,
because your competitive side takes over. You're in a game. There's
yeah,
situations where you just kind of push through the pain, and it's really difficult to know really the difference between soreness and an injury. um, and when everything's internal, like a concussion, it's even more difficult to really express how serious it's affecting you. And it's all kind of reliant on you expressing that, and people believing what you're saying and not dismissing it. So um, that's when I really started to understand the difficulty, and that uh, there was nothing really there to help, especially youth athletes who are really, you're starting out playing just to be healthy and have fun. You
yeah,
may or may not go professional. Most of the time you aren't.
yeah,
And getting such a serious injury so early on can really have lifelong
yeah,
effects, and affect you in all parts of your life. So it actually took me about, let's say, 1 year and a half before I decided to really do something about it. and I started to research. I read any paper that I could on concussions in sports and what was being done in this field to help detect it, because it is one of the most difficult injuries to detect,
Yeah.
because you're relying on all subjective uh, symptoms, and that's really hard to quantify. And um, I started to read more about it and decided to do something about it, and create some sort of technology that could help, because I noticed that there really wasn't any sort of technology available to the consumer market that could help in these situations. Athletic trainers
Yeah.
aren't equipped with any sort of technology for this, so I decided to make my own, and that's kind of where my path started. And the more I read about it and the more people I talked to, I realized that this was a huge thing that needed to be solved, and I needed to help in any way that I could.
So you knew that just your mechanical engineering background lent itself to developing these devices. Did you have to learn about like the obviously the science side of it, the medical side, like the pupil areas, like how your eyes work, or would you have to been a really double separate degree almost like
Yeah,
neuroscience degree?
so yeah, the engineering definitely helped me on the tech side.
Yeah.
But because I was studying mechanical engineering, I had to learn a lot of electrical engineering, software engineering, a
Yeah.
lot of programming. And I knew nothing about the medical field. I think I
Yeah.
took one biology class and one
Okay.
chemistry class, and that was it. So yeah, that's where I really had to dive deep. I started to um, study as much as I could. I picked up the MCAT books, trying to
Eh,
understand, how the brain works and
yeah.
how everything's connected, and to really understand what is happening internally, and how can we detect that. So yeah, I had to study a lot on the medical side, because I was really, really lacking on that. And I continue to learn, because it's not something that I majored in or
No.
have any sort of background in. So it's definitely been a big learning curve for me.
But if you hired the right people who do know some stuff about the like the biology behind it, the chemistry behind it. I know because when I developed a degree in my undergrad, and I know that helped me just doing physio, just to recognize that, oh yeah, this was connected here, and this muscle does this, and probably why, and I have some general idea of why we do that. So, and that's just an undergrad degree, so I know like I'm sure you're doing a engineering degree, which I have a lot of friends who've done the engineering as well. So, and I know there's a lot of different components. And I actually have a friend here who had a brain injury who is now a physio, but was a chemical engineer and was in a science, a health company in Ohio when she was brain injured. She was doing as a chemical engineer, but she was doing I think working on pacemakers or something, or like not pacemakers, maybe a defib, but
Hmm.
kind of blending the two. And so you're kind of doing that. You're kind of blending mechanical engineering with or analogy like computer with say and chemical with or both geez, biomedical biology. Anyway, blah blah. Keep going on with this, but yeah, they combine those two technologies or two areas of study into one, and also you had to get a business sort of business sense of where this thing may be needed and why. And so, could you explain how, like, about how do I explain, talk about how the business end came to not the business end because it's about you, about concussions, but like how it became apparent to you that there was a need and people are willing to just do to spend money to do work in this area. So,
Yeah, so yeah, that's a great question. I think um, along with the medical side, I also had to understand if this was really a need and what people out there actually needed. I wasn't going to create something that had been done before or wasn't needed at all. And so,
yeah,
along with studying on the medical side, I really started to talk to as many people as I could, that had either gone through a concussion, had played sports, had kids in sports. I talked to a lot of athletic trainers to really understand, what was needed. And I think from all these conversations and my own experience, I really started to understand that uh, what was needed was some sort of technology that could help on the objective side. And we have the SCAT-5 where it does a great job of kind of collecting as much as it could. But talking to a lot of athletes that had gone through concussions, one of the main things was, it was hard for them to quantify how serious it was for them. And a lot of the time they tried to get away with faking that they were fine in order to, go back to play. And, it's difficult, especially in the heat of the moment, to take that pause and focus on your future and say, you know what, I'm not going to return to this game because it's difficult, especially with the pressure of the game, the coaches, the parents, and all of that. As an athlete,
and if you're
you
young
really want
too,
to play.
and if you're
Yeah,
young,
exactly.
yeah,
You think you're invincible.
yeah,
You think, nah, it's fine for now. Nothing can
yeah,
affect me.
yeah. Made Rob,
I'm
yeah,
exactly.
yeah,
So after talking to a lot of athletic trainers, that they told me that something that could help them understand objectively what was going on with that athlete, to give them kind of that second look at someone, would be ideal. And so that's where I really started to see, and kind of put together what type of product I was going to create. Because I had done all on the research on the medical side, understanding, what could be done, what sort of tests were being done,
yeah.
what was kind of the limitation there, the limitation on the engineering side, of course, on the technology side, and pushing that limitation, and then making sure that, this product was going to be useful. I wanted to create something that was easy to use, portable, could be used in all weather conditions, because, as an athlete, you play rain, mud, everything,
Yeah,
snow, except if
yeah,
the only thing that's going to stop you is lightning. So it
yeah.
needed to be able to,
Even with stand light.
um, to kind of push all these conditions and
Yeah,
be there and be quick. It
yeah,
needs to be fast because, you're in the middle of a game. You need it to be very quick and let you know it can't take 30 minutes. It needs to be usable by athletic trainers. So that's where it really started to kind of shape into what was needed and what sort of technology I was going to create.
So you kind of came up with this idea when you were in your fourth year, like your last year in engineering, and
Yeah,
just admitted that you just came up with a prototype, or how did that work? Did you, because Vicendo started like right after you graduated, right, didn't it? Like,
yeah. So I actually was on a 5-year course. So
okay,
it was. I started thinking about and doing all my research in my fourth year, um, in like March or something like that of 2018. And it actually didn't become a concrete thing until October 2018, when I actually started the company, founded it. And so I spent about a year and a half, in school and doing the company. And our first step was really to create a prototype that we could show what we were saying could actually be done.
yeah.
Um, so we spent about a year doing that until creating our first prototype and kind of our proof of concept to show that our technology um, was capable, and getting interest from different people, and crafting it to make sure that all the feedback that I had been hearing about was being fused into this prototype.
That's impressive. That's fair. So you were still doing obviously tough coursework. I know my friends in engineering didn't have an easy time going through with their courses. I mean, it's rigorous and not the same school, but same degree. And so I, because actually you reached out to me. First of all, I look back on our messages, and the first time was in 2018, so I was just started. So thanks, and I'm so sorry that I apologize again. That it's been but 5 years now since I almost 5 years, not quite 5 years since I've got back to you. But in that time, you had the Vistendo is now. When did that officially? This when was that officially established? Vistendo as a company.
Yeah, so it was established October 2018 is when I
Okay.
officially founded it. Um, and since, yeah, it's been a couple years, which
Wow.
is crazy to think, and we've definitely grown and
Yeah,
expanded since
definitely.
then. Yeah.
And you, I saw on your website, which is Vistendo.com. I don't want to say it that's wrong, but the Vistendo.com, check it out. And on that page, you mentioned that you're in several schools. So what have been the results in the who are not schools, leagues, so youth leagues or maybe schools? I can't remember really. So who are you demonstrating this product with, who is begun to beta testing this product.
Yeah, so we're doing a couple things in that sense. We're right now doing a clinical study at Johns Hopkins University with their Brain Injury Outcome Center
Nice.
to use our device on neurological patients to show that our device is equivalent to the gold standards that they use in their clinics. So that's we've been doing in that, which is been going fantastic, and
Nice.
that's something that we're really excited about. And
Good.
on top of that, I think in 2019, we actually won a grant with the U.S. Defense Health Agency to use our device on military service members because it was very interesting. I learned kind of a year and a half in that the military has very similar situations to
Yeah.
athletes. They need something that's portable, usable on the field. Obviously, their field is a little bit more extreme, but
The
they're
lightning doesn't matter.
yeah, the lightning
Even the
for
lightning
them.
will blow back. Yeah.
um, so we started working with them. In that work has expanded into a phase two um, to really take our device and use it as a TBI assessment for them. So we're doing that as well, and we will also work on the kind of the device comes with an app as well to really help understand the whole as an athlete, not only just the objective side, and that's been being beta tested by Cal Poly Pomona athletes, and we're making sure that everything that we create is usable by athlete and athletic trainers, and that it's something that is constantly being shaped to make sure that what we create is going to help the most.
Jeez, wow. This is all very impressive. So your state gave jobs to you, as we've said a million times, you have an engineering degree. So what have you learned about traumatic brain injury, not just from your sister, but I mean, you learned the emotional and the physical and the individual symptoms of it, but also we've learned about the condition itself, the injury itself. We've learned that surprised you or that's remarkable to you.
Yeah, I think um, I had a very limited understanding of
Yeah,
concussions and brain injuries as
I
a
still do.
whole. Um, I always thought, they affect you a little bit. You get headaches, because you got nailed in the head by a
Yeah,
ball or
yeah,
by a head. And in a couple of weeks, you're pretty much fine. That was pretty much all I knew about concussions before I started. Um, and then the more I read into it, I think the thing that has impressed or been
impressive. Yeah,
shocking to me is how deep this injury can go and how severe it can get, and all of the ways that it can impact you, not only physically but mentally and emotionally as well. And it's really all hidden. A lot of the times, if the
yeah,
brain injuries don't have any physical side of it and it's only affecting you mentally and emotionally,
yeah,
you're pretty much battling it alone, and that's very scary for me to think that there's a ton of people out there, especially with brain injuries that go undiagnosed just because
yeah,
you don't know.
yeah,
You think it's normal that your head hurts, and you start to suffer in things that whether it's your memory or the way you respond to things, and you have no idea that it's connected to that brain injury you suffered 2 weeks ago.
yeah,
Um, and so that's, for me, that's one of the scariest things to think of, is that there's a bunch of youth athletes out there suffering silently,
Yeah.
not knowing that they suffered a brain injury, continuing to play and putting themselves at risk at suffering from another head injury or brain injury that's going to affect them later on. And I've talked to a lot of athletes that have gone through 4 or 5 concussions, um, and only now when they've, when they're in college or past that, are they really starting to understand the impact of all those brain injuries and how that's affecting them in their daily life. And I think we have to do something to help, and I'm trying to help in any way that I can.
Well, you're doing a great job. So yeah, 'cause I always say like I had some like so I had my ranges very severe and just couldn't be overlooked because I was in a coma, so it couldn't really be overlooked. But also major I had some major physical injuries from it. Like my balance was often, but I mean, if that wasn't the case, my speech could be like it is now, and my balance could be. I just, I'm kind of lucky that I had such obviously obvious physical deficits from my brain injury that not deficits, but like deficits compared to where I was physically. Um, but yeah, I just find that so like you're saying, like a lot of people just get hit in the head and it's not major, it's not if it's in the hospital, then like don't get knocked out there. They can walk fine, their balance is fine, but then like to the 2 weeks later, they'll be tired, or all of a sudden they'll be emotional about something they normally aren't, and it's remarkable how deep this injury, like you said, as you said, how deep it goes. So, but on your side, do you just kind of personal interest? Do you still play soccer?
I
Still,
do for fun. I do for
yeah,
fun, but I also play now beach flag football.
beach
So
flag.
beach flag football, yeah.
That's a California thing. So,
Yes, yes, it's a very California thing.
so what? Well, I guess flag. If I get hit, but you probably do get it inadvertently because there's a lot of these. Like how many people on a field of beach flag? How many people play per game?
I
Is it a
I
league
believe
or is
it's
it
like,
just,
yeah, it's a recreational league. It's called Beach City Sports, and
that
it's
sounds
about, I
fun?
think it's 7-on-7 or
Well,
something like that. 8-on-8,
lots
yeah.
of lots of opportunities to get hit by mistake. But sounds like a lot of fun though. Do you play this totally this has nothing to do with concussion, but do you play on the water's edge or do you play just up on the beach?
Yeah, so we play just on the beach, just on
Okay.
the sand, which makes it really fun because you can definitely, fall
Yeah.
and it won't hurt as much.
Yeah.
There's no tackling, but people get really competitive,
But
which
can't you see
is always very
we
fun.
can't like run into the ocean to avoid people or
Yeah.
not far, but just like you where I was in Dominican Republic with a bunch of guys from our university graduation trip. We played like we had like beach football. I think it was full tackle. So we were young and whatever.
Yeah.
We were tagging each other into the ocean and stuff like that, but not deep obviously. But it was fun. But yeah. So soccer, do you head to all more? Or do you advise your teammates not to, or do you do anything like that, or do you
I
avoid?
head I avoid heading. I've always not loved it, so I always try and avoid it. And every time I see someone go up for one, I'm breathing deep,
Yeah,
but it's part of the game, which makes it a little difficult to advise against it.
yeah,
But I think if you can do it safely, it's a bit better. But
yeah,
because we only play very limited and we don't practice, so we're not heading every day like I used to. That yeah, it's definitely difficult. I try and avoid it, and every time I see someone go up, especially when two people go up, I'm kind of holding my breath to see.
do you practice beach flag football? Do you
I
practice?
don't. No, that's just games. Yeah, so
I
that
don't
we just
know.
kind of get together
It's
and
fun
play
though.
for fun.
Yeah,
It's really fun, especially I played sports my whole life, so that's
yeah.
something that I really really enjoy and
I can
always
see.
try and have time for
Yeah,
that.
yeah. So does your sister also play soccer or any other sports? She's not involved in sports?
Yeah, so she still plays soccer sometimes, and she also got into a couple other sports as well. She's been very lucky and fortunate to not have suffered any, real long-term
Yeah.
injuries with it, but she definitely is very wary and doesn't head the ball or go in as hard as she used to
Yeah.
anymore.
Guess you're not as competitive, or like
It's
the
it's
league
definitely it's
season.
definitely tricky, but she tries
Yeah.
to remember herself that it's for
Yeah.
fun now. So
Yeah. So what's next for Vistendo and for we got some basic info about your company. So how many employees do you have, or how many board members, or I've seen you got a lot of impressive board members or chairs or advisory boards. So if you wanted to mention anything that's, or what's coming up, and your board itself, if that's, or not necessarily a board, but like saying what you're anticipating doing or are doing.
yeah, absolutely. So we're about 10 employees now. Uh, we've expanded quite a bit. Our partnerships and advisors is always very important to me. Bringing in that medical expertise to really understand what's out there. So we've partnered not only with Johns Hopkins University, but doctors from Emory, Stanford, USC. We work with, of course, experts.
Both sides of the country.
Exactly, yeah,
Yeah.
and we work with experts with the FDA as well. Making sure we're following all the guidelines there as well. We have engineers from Caltech and Berkeley and all that. So, we try and expand and get expertise from every single area that we can to really understand, what work is being out there. How can we make sure that, our technology that we're creating is going to have the biggest help and the biggest impact. And really what's next for us is just, finishing up this clinical study and getting our product ready to launch.
And how's that going? How's your clinical study going? Like, how are the results you're getting from even your beta testing?
Yeah, it's been going very well. We're getting very good feedback, and hopefully we can wrap that up later this year, if not next year, and start to get our product out there in 2020, at the end of 2024, early 2025, possibly. And we're also growing out our mobile app side as well, growing our expertise there to really help not only on the device side get the objective side, but really understand subjectively and have communication flow between the athletic trainer and athletes and parents and coaches to make sure that everyone's up to date on these injuries and really understand
Yeah.
what the athlete is going through
Yeah.
without the athlete having that responsibility, which is very difficult for them. So we're launching that as well, and yeah, just growing and
Yeah.
hopefully going commercial soon and
Nice.
working to make a bigger impact. Yeah.
Yeah, I think like, yeah, like I know, like, for my sponsor Hitchik Health, who's in Vancouver, um do a lot like this, like the mobile apps, a lot do a lot. I think they just by themselves do a lot to increase vigilance among players, among coaches, parents, any staff, athletic trainers, like any staff. I think vigilance is something that's hard to really train, but it's so important, as you were saying before, that just if you know that, if you can understand the severity of brain injuries, and if you recognize that they're important, then they'll be more likely to tell the truth. Hopefully, they'll tell the truth to your doctors anyway. But they'll be more likely to not want to hide anything. But finally, where can people find out more about this? And I'm sure people want to find out more about this endo. So how do they do that?
Yeah, so you can definitely check out our website, vistendo.com, and we're also on LinkedIn and Facebook. And if we're always looking to talk to as many people as we can that are related to this industry. If you've suffered from a concussion or you specialize in this field, so feel free to reach out to us also at our email, which is info@vistendo.com.
Great. Well, that sounds perfect. Because I mean, I'm so happy that you reached out to me, and I eventually returned message, but it was great timing. So thank you so much. And I said as well, please stay. I'm gonna say goodbye now to all these fine people listening and watching on YouTube. But so thank you, and I'll see you in a few weeks or next week. But I'll ask
Yeah.
y'all to
Thanks for
stay
having me.
around. Well, thank you.